I'm joined by Harry Littman of the Talking Feds YouTube channel, the Talking Feds podcast. Make sure you subscribe to both. Harry, so the last witness that was called, usually want to end your case on a high note. The last witness called by the defense in Trump's criminal trial was Robert Costello. From all the reporting, it seems that Donald Trump wanted Costello to be called, that his legal team really did not want Costello to be called. This MAGA lawyer who kind of wormed his way in based on a relationship with Giuliani into Michael Cohen's life in 2018, tried to befriend Cohen, said, I'll represent you, I'm going to help you. But then in all of the email communications behind the scenes, Costello was basically saying, hey, Cohen's an a-hole. How do we shut Cohen down? You know, we gotta help the big guy. We gotta help Donald. And it also made it clear that what Costello was after was his own kind of professional advance, just making a lot of money in the MAGA world, basically, helping Donald Trump out. So he was called. There was that moment during direct where a lot of the questions that were objectionable were sustained. He started making faces and staring down the judge, and then the court had to be cleared, and there was a whole scene. Then on cross-examination, it seemed like an utter disaster where some of the testimony that Costello said that he was focused on helping Michael Cohen was like rebutted very easily by all of the emails showing that he was trying to screw over Michael Cohen for Trump and Giuliani. Seemed like a disaster, but I wasn't in the court. You were in the court. So take us through from the moment. One, did you know the defense was going to call him? Was there a bit of this moment where, right, the defense first called some like paralegal, which was weird, like the, you know, and then they called Costello. Was there like a gasp? And then Costello, what was he wearing? How did he look? Take us through the parts of this that like we didn't get from just hearing the reporting.
Can you say debacle? Unreal. So did we know? There were a couple. First of all, we knew, anyone with any smarts knew that Trump wasn't going to testify. And so what do you do when you're not going to testify? Probably the smarter move is to at least affect a kind of confident air and say, we don't need to bring anybody on because they haven't proven their case. But if you want to do one or two little things and it's all you got, then, you know, it better be good, because you're subject otherwise to the criticism in the jury room or just in every juror's mind. This was all they had. They had one opportunity, and this was they brought. So they had talked about before, besides Trump always teasing that he might, everyone knew that was crap. A guy who had worked with Cohen on the diversity committee for the campaign. We can set that to the side. And then Costello. But as you thought about Costello, it didn't seem like it would make sense. What are they thinking? But we knew it was going to happen when they called the first person. Because the first person was actually a paralegal to authenticate phone calls that come into the Costello firm. All right, so here comes Costello. Now, certainly, based on what we'd heard in the prosecution's case, prosecution used Costello for just what you say, to show that he was, trying to insinuate himself. He was he was a double agent, insinuate himself with Cohen and get the big prestige case and assignment, big in MAGA world, but also continually go to Rudy Giuliani, who is running things at this point for Trump, and basically keep him in the fold and keep him from cooperating. Textbook obstruction, by the way. So that part came out and was part of an overall story, but that's it. It kind of washed over. And then they call them, and they're going to emphasize this foolishly. No, people, when we talked about it before, couldn't understand the wisdom in calling him. Trump wanted to call him, apparently, and the notion was to try to show Michael Cohen's a liar. I will get to that in a moment, because that totally blew up in their faces. But first, you had a spectacle I've never seen in a courtroom before. Costello looks the part, silver mane, kind of leonine, overweight, kind of mobbed up guy. And he sits down, and we talked about this before in a different tape, how they were really kind of stumbling in their examinations, getting objected to successfully a lot. And it happens, and Costello is like saying something. He's like muttering under his breath, and he's obviously like upset about it. Like, what the hell is going on? And this guy's a lawyer, and then it's clear he says something about strike, and he says, and he's just like totally, muttering like a jerk, or making comments on the judge's ruling. So Merchan, I think he's kept a pretty firm hand all the way through, but he was really good here, in the sense that he calmly told the jury to leave the room. On the other hand, definitely the jury noticed, because a few people in the jury clearly heard these first mutterings by Costello. Then you have this astonishing event, way more like memorable and out of the ordinary than Cohen stumbling and on his cross-examination, as people pointed out. And I'm sure there was tongue wagging galore in the jury room about what this was, and they knew what it was. And anyway, yeah, he starts to explain to him, I'm the one who makes rulings here. You do not say. Oh, the first thing he said was, "Geez." Like Tony Soprano, or like even stupider than Tony Soprano, right? He said, and he really dresses him down, at which point Costello, either natural big shot or wanting to perform in front of the boss, is like staring him down like a third grader. And Merch says, "Are you staring me down now?" Like incredulous, but also infuriated. And he totally rips him a new one, and then goes to his lawyers. Now, he is contemptuous. I'm going to strike his testimony, etc. At which point Costello said, "Can I say something, whether to apologize or whatever?" Merchan said, "No, this is not a conversation." Totally put him in his place. Okay, and now, and before, though, when he did the stare down, there was still people in the room. Merchan actually cleared the courtroom. We were out then, although the Trump and his entourage were still there. So this is just what we, read about happened later. Okay. So now this is, it's not just a memorable mess, but it reflects so poorly on Trump. This is, total thuggery. They bring back in now, and okay, now here's the testimony. In theory, you would think the jury should like pay that, no, never mind. But come on, is there one witness, and he's obviously a thug, and it plays with the whole theme they had him for. Why was he on the stand at all? You would know this. Under the rules of evidence, there were two statements that Cohen had made that Costello could testify. He said something different to me, what the law calls prior inconsistent statement. You're damn right he did. That was his whole testimony from Michael Cohen. He was still saying then, when he was first talking with Costello, "No, I don't have anything bad on Donald Trump." He was saying that to everyone. And then he gets search warrant served, and he's in big trouble. And now he needs to be adverse to Donald Trump. Costello, seems to him to be a double agent. He never hires him. His sort of spider sense goes off, and that's the whole thing. So Costello can say, this is their whole harvest from the examination. How he said that Trump was lying? Well, before he told me Trump hadn't done anything wrong. We knew that already. Okay, so that's all they get out of him. But then clobbered again on in a really expert cross-examination, where they bring up think they would not have been able to do this, and they hadn't done it in their case in chief, but because he testifies and makes these points, they can produce some emails, including one from Costello to his partner, which are totally clear. And this guy is supposed to be a lawyer to Michael Cohen, that he's just, screwing him and playing him for points with Trump, and saying, we got to keep him in the fold, and just a sieve and a siphon to the man who's now adverse to him, Donald Trump. So those now come in, and they, really bring home the whole sort of Goodfellas scene that Costello represented. And then, as we were talking about before, on redirect, they try to do a few things to rehabilitate. And the very last thing, objection sustained, and they sit down meekly. So the evidence doesn't go very far. As a result of the evidence, the things they can put in goes pretty far, and then you have this added extra crazy drama of his acting like a mobbed up guy on the stand, exactly fitting in with one of the themes that had come through with Michael Cohen. So, and that was it. Then do you try to recover? Do you do whatever? They'd have been so much better off calling no one. But at that point, the defense rests. Oy vey. Can you say debacle?
Well, look, the prosecution would not, to your point, would not have otherwise been able to get in any of these emails. It's not really relevant. You could argue the prejudicial aspect outweighs its probative value. I mean, these would not be emails that come in. And if
for anything, because he's not testifying until he does, then they impeach him as a witness.
Yeah, and then you couldn't have asked for a better ending if you were the prosecution, because to the extent you say, okay, out of the 21 hours of Cohen testifying, if on cross-examination the defense got in a jab here or there, which, by the way, that's not an effective cross if that's all you got, but assume they did that and the jury was like, I think Cohen was great, 21 hours, but then the defense calls first the paralegal from their law firm, which, no offense to this paralegal, but like, that ain't it, okay? There's no reason to call. Very strange. So then if I'm the jury, I'm like, why would you just call nobody? Call him the paralegal. Then it goes, the defense calls Robert Costello. So now if I'm the jury, I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to get some explanation now about what this case is about. I'm going to get
from the defense point of view. Right.
And rather getting the defense, I got the prosecution's best dream scenario showing that Donald Trump tried to cover this all up to falsify it, which is what the very case is about. So it actually would be, it puts this thing in a perfect ribbon and bow and hands it to the jury of like, exactly, this is who they are. This is exactly who they are. Then you add to that the fact that you have this group of the Red Tie Brigade, these MAGA Republicans coming in every day dressed like Donald Trump with long ties, which also seems like a form of jury intimidation and intimidation at the, you couldn't have handled this any worse for the defense. And frankly, you couldn't have handled it any better for the prosecution. Ultimately, no one knows what the outcome's going to be. I mean, it's up to the jury. You never know what, but in terms of handling this, in terms of like what a dream scenario from a prosecution, what a disaster scenario from defense, this is it.
And again, it seems like it was Trump's decision because he thought, oh, he's on my side. He'll show that Cohen's a liar. But to the extent Cohen's a liar, that they have a story. He lied until he told the truth, and Costello comes in the first place. But again, there's a lot of studies that I was really interested in this when I was a trial lawyer, but that, jurors really are focused on who is the sponsor of information. So what you just heard was a little bit of Costello before that kind of filters, in with other themes in the case. But this is the defense. This is the thing they have to say. And I think it's just what you're saying comes home with redoubled, quadrupled impact because it's coming from the defense as their only witness. That's the best you got. That's what calling Costello did for them.
Yeah, and I'd be like, huh? If I'm the jury, I'm like, what? Like, I even if you're on the fence, I thought you were going to give me something. That's what you gave me anyway. Harry,
and just one more thing, juries have good relationships with the judge. This judge has been great. They like him. So they totally understood that this guy infuriated the judge, and that it shouldn't, but it totally, I think, redounds against Trump. And, you got one side of sleazebags and another side of colorful, maybe not, choir boys, but truth tellers. And this brought it home.
I love it. I love it. Hit subscribe here. Make sure you subscribe to Harry Litman's channel, the Talking Feds YouTube channel. They are rapidly growing, and it's a place where I go to get my legal news as well. And Harry's in the courtroom. So please, if you can, subscribe. Leave me a comment confirming you've subscribed. It's the Talking Feds YouTube channel and the Talking Feds podcast. Thanks for watching.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.